The beginnings of human endeavor and dreams beyond the stars. The story of humanity's rise to the stars is one of unyielding ambition and remarkable ingenuity. From the earliest moments of our history, we have always looked toward the heavens, wondering what lay beyond the familiar skies of Earth. Our ancestors, far before the age of space travel, gazed at the stars, contemplating the possibility that they were more than distant lights in the night. These ancestors, with their humble beginnings, would never have imagined that one day their descendants would not only reach the stars, but would establish their presence in the vast emptiness of space. Humanity's earliest triumphs were achieved by those who dared to push the limits of the impossible. We began by mastering the skies with wings made of wood and fabric, the first forays into the air showing a fledgling species' incredible determination to defy gravity. And with each success, we edged closer to unlocking the mysteries of flight. As each generation brought new innovations, we began to understand that the impossible was only a challenge to be overcome. The true turning point came when humans set their sights beyond the Earth's atmosphere. The idea of space travel had been a dream for centuries, but it wasn't until the 20th century that human ingenuity broke free of Earth's gravitational pull. The first steps toward space were clumsy, filled with failure and heartache, but each step brought us closer to realizing our collective dream. The day the first humans successfully crossed into space, the world held its breath, knowing that it was not just a man who had made the journey, it was humanity itself, taking its first real step into the cosmos. The moon landing was a moment of such magnitude that it felt as though history itself had been rewritten. The words, "That's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind," became immortalized in time. The entire world watched as humanity planted its flag on a barren, silent world. For the first time, we were not limited to Earth. We had expanded our reach into the unknown. But even after this monumental achievement, the question lingered, where next? The answer came from the unrelenting human spirit to explore. The journey did not stop at the moon. It couldn't. We had broken the chains of gravity, and the stars beckoned us. Humans, fueled by their desire to go beyond, began to plan missions that would take them to the farthest reaches of the solar system. Mars, the next obvious target, became the focus of ambitious plans. It was no longer a matter of whether we could, but when. However, the journey to Mars was not simple. The technology required to travel that far was not yet developed, and it would take decades of innovation to make it possible. Scientists and engineers worked tirelessly, developing the technologies that would make long-duration space travel feasible. One of the biggest hurdles was energy. How could we generate enough fuel to send humans to Mars? Rockets, even the most advanced chemical rockets, had their limitations. We needed to think outside the box. It was during this period of scientific revolution that humanity made another leap. The first space stations were built, floating far above Earth. They weren't just for research. They were crucial for developing the technologies that would take us to Mars. These stations allowed us to test life support systems, build the necessary infrastructure, and train astronauts for deep space missions. At the same time, humans began to develop better and more efficient propulsion methods. Solar sails, nuclear propulsion, and even ion thrusters were considered. The most crucial breakthrough, however, was humanity's ability to produce resources in space. The moon, once a symbol of our conquest, became a resource hub. Mining operations set up on the lunar surface began producing valuable materials like water ice, which could be converted into fuel for rockets. This revolutionized space travel, cutting down the cost of missions and allowing humanity to dream bigger. By the time the first humans set foot on Mars, humanity had already achieved so much more. The moon had become a permanent outpost, a stepping stone for further exploration, and Mars had its first colony. Though small, it was a testament to the determination that had brought us there. Still, as remarkable as this progress was, it was just the beginning. Humanity's future was no longer bound by the limits of Earth. It was now defined by the infinite possibilities of space. As the first Mars mission reached its success, a new age of space exploration began. We had settled on one planet, but our ambitions soared far beyond. With technology advancing at an unimaginable pace, there was little doubt that humanity would continue to push the boundaries of space exploration. Our journey to the stars was just starting, and the rest of the universe was open for discovery. Yet all these advancements had come at a cost. The wars and political struggles that had accompanied humanity's rise into space were always lurking just beneath the surface. The world had seen tremendous technological progress, but with progress came tension. Not all nations were pleased with humanity's newfound power in space. Political battles over resources, space colonies, and who would control the moon's resources were inevitable. However, as we learned more about the vastness of the universe, we began to see a much bigger picture. The conflicts on Earth seemed trivial compared to what lay beyond. Space became our collective mission, a challenge we could face together as humans. It was during this time, as we began to truly understand the depth and complexity of space, that the first signs of extraterrestrial life were discovered. The first contact was brief but undeniable. A signal from deep space, carrying a message unlike anything humanity had ever encountered before. The signal was not from another world, but from another species entirely. These beings, who had watched humanity's rise from afar, had observed our journey with a mix of curiosity and caution. They were not enemies, but allies. These beings, who called themselves the Ildari, had been monitoring human progress for centuries. When they realized that humanity had crossed a threshold, one that no species had before, they made themselves known. The Ildari spoke of a shared vision of the future, one where humanity could join them in exploring the stars. But they also warned of the dangers ahead. There were others out there, other species who had no intention of cooperating with humanity. They had seen the destructive potential of human ingenuity, and they would stop at nothing to prevent us from expanding further into the galaxy. But even with this threat, humanity remained undeterred. The Ildari helped us unlock new technologies, ones that made space travel even more efficient and sustainable. With their help, humanity could now push deeper into the cosmos than we ever thought possible. And so we began our greatest journey yet, one that would take us far beyond the stars, to places that would challenge everything we thought we knew about the universe. Part 2. The Solar War begins. With new allies at our side and advanced technology within our reach, humanity felt unstoppable. But as we continued to expand, we soon discovered that we were not alone in our ambitions. Across the stars, other species had already established their dominance, and they saw humanity as a threat to their control. It didn't take long for tensions to escalate. The first attacks came swiftly. Spaceships, their engines powered by technologies humanity had never seen before, appeared on the outskirts of our colonies. They didn't communicate. They didn't negotiate. They simply attacked. The Solar War had begun. Humans were not the first species to reach space, but we were by far the most ambitious. We didn't just seek to survive. We sought to thrive. But that ambition came at a cost. Our enemies were numerous, and they were united in their fear of humanity's potential. It was during the early days of the Solar War that humanity was forced to fight for its very existence. Despite the new technologies that allowed us to defend ourselves, the war was brutal. We fought across every corner of our solar system, on the moon, on Mars, and in the vastness of space itself. Ships were destroyed, colonies were lost, and countless lives were sacrificed. But humanity did not give up. Every time we were pushed to the brink, we fought back. And with each victory, we learned and adapted. The war seemed endless, but through our ingenuity and determination, we began to turn the tide. And as the war raged on, something extraordinary happened. The very engines of humanity's hope, the silent engines, kept burning, hidden deep within the ships and structures we had built to survive. We knew that we could never stop fighting, but we also knew that this war was not just about survival. It was about proving to the universe that humanity was here to stay. And no matter how dark the days became, those engines, silent but unyielding, reminded us of our unbreakable will. The war was far from over, but the spirit of humanity burned brighter than ever. The Solar War begins. Humanity's fight for survival. As the ink of our peace treaties dried, a storm began to brew across the stars. The Solar War had not been a mere rumor. It was a reality, a sudden and violent confrontation between humanity and the other species we had so confidently believed to be benign. Our first battle had been fought not with fire, but with cold, calculated diplomacy. We had made enemies not only among those who sought to control the resources of the cosmos, but also those who saw our sudden rise as a threat to their dominance. In the quiet years after our settlement on the moon, humanity had grown complacent. We reveled in our discoveries and achievements, lost in the euphoria of technological advancement and peace. But the galaxy had other plans for us. The Ildari, our first allies in the stars, warned us that peace could not be taken for granted. You cannot trust what you do not know, they had told us. The universe is vast and filled with those who fear your potential. But humanity, in its haste, ignored the cautionary words of our mentors. We thought we were untouchable. The reality would prove much darker. It all started with a strange, untraceable signal. At first, it was nothing more than a whisper, a flicker in the radio waves. Scientists and military leaders alike had brushed it off as an anomaly, the usual static of deep space. But then, the signal came again, this time with a deliberate pattern, a warning. The message was short, but it was clear. The humans will not claim what is ours. It didn't take long for the enemy to show themselves. Ships, sleek and dark like shadows in the vastness of space, emerged from the far reaches of the galaxy. They were fast, their technology leagues ahead of anything we had developed. These were not simple vessels of war. These ships were living entities, grown from organic matter, capable of self-repair and evolution. We had never seen anything like them. At first, the attacks were subtle. Small skirmishes on the fringes of our colonies in the asteroid belt and beyond. They struck quickly, silently, like predators testing the waters. But soon, the attacks grew bolder. Our fleet, though vast, was caught off guard. We were unprepared for such a sudden strike. Our colonies on the Moon and Mars were among the first to feel the devastating consequences. Cities were bombed from orbit, and our ground forces were overwhelmed in a matter of hours. The human spirit, however, refused to break. It never does. By the time the enemy began to push into the inner planets, humanity had rallied. The first of our great fleet engagements took place at the edge of Jupiter's orbit. The battle was a brutal exchange of firepower and strategy. Our ships were not as advanced as the enemy's, but we made up for it with sheer determination and adaptability. Humans, in their fight for survival, had one thing no other species had: an unyielding will to fight back, no matter the odds. The war had begun, but humanity's refusal to surrender had set the stage for a long and difficult conflict. The enemy, whom we would later call the Saren, were relentless in their pursuit of dominance. Their advanced organic ships could regenerate faster than our own technology could handle, and their weapons seemed unstoppable. The Saren had no mercy, no hesitation. They struck at anything that stood in their way. But our ingenuity, that very trait that had propelled us to the stars, was now humanity's greatest weapon. Every time the Saren made a move, we countered with new tactics, new strategies, new innovations. The war wasn't just about military power, it was about our survival. The human race fought with everything it had, no matter the cost. Every human colony, every ship, every resource was pushed to its absolute limit. On Earth, the government called upon every citizen to contribute to the war effort. Scientists were brought together in secretive laboratories, working day and night to create new technologies to fight the Saren. Engineers worked on developing more efficient weapons, stronger defenses, and faster ships. Every human being became a soldier, even if they never fired a shot. Civilians were drafted into the production lines, where they crafted weapons, built spaceships, and even mined asteroids for precious resources to fund the war effort. At the same time, humanity's leaders worked tirelessly to form alliances with other alien species, some of whom had been watching the solar war unfold from a distance. The Ildari, despite their warnings about humanity's potential for destruction, stepped forward to offer us their support. Their technology was far superior to ours, but they shared their knowledge with us, hoping to level the playing field. With their help, we developed a new type of weapon, an energy-based projectile that could pierce the hulls of the Zhuran ships. This new weapon, called the Sunfire Torpedo, was a game-changer. It harnessed the power of fusion, turning the heat of the sun into a directed beam that could melt through the toughest materials known to man. With it, humanity's fleet finally had a weapon capable of matching the Zhuran's firepower. But the Zhuran were not easily defeated. The war was not just a battle of weapons. It was a battle of ideologies, a battle for control of the universe. The human race now stood at a crossroads. We had faced extinction before, but this was different. The Zhuran were not just enemies. They were a threat to our very existence. Every human being felt the weight of the war on their shoulders. Every decision mattered. Every life counted. In the midst of the chaos, one human soldier stood above the rest. His name was Commander Lucas Denvers. He was an ordinary man, but his courage and leadership set him apart. He had once been a captain of a small space vessel, but his actions during the early stages of the Solar War had earned him a promotion to commander of the flagship of humanity's fleet, the Eagle's Fury. Under his command, humanity's forces began to turn the tide. Commander Denvers was not a typical leader. He did not lead from the back. He was always at the front, in the heat of battle. His charisma and bravery inspired his crew, and his tactical genius gave humanity the edge it needed to survive. As the war raged on, Commander Denvers became a symbol of hope for humanity. His name was whispered across the stars as the leader who would not let humanity fall. The Zhuran may have underestimated us, but they would soon learn that we were not a species to be taken lightly. Humanity had been knocked down, but we would rise, not just to survive, but to thrive. Our fight had only just begun, and the universe would soon understand that no matter how dark the days may become, we would always stand tall in the face of adversity. The war had turned humanity into something greater than we ever thought possible. It had turned us into a force to be reckoned with. Humanity's rebirth through fire. The relentless assault on Earth and its colonies had left a mark on humanity's psyche. The skies over the planet were not filled with the cheerful glint of spacecrafts soaring toward new horizons, but the dark shadows of warships cutting through the heavens. The once bustling spaceports now stood silent, craters of devastation, marking the places where joy and discovery had flourished. But amid this chaos, a profound transformation was taking place, one that would reshape humanity's future forever. Commander Lucas Denvers had watched it all unfold from the command center of the Eagle's Fury. It had been a long and exhausting year since the first Zhuran strike. The battles had been brutal, each one leaving a scar on the galaxy. But each battle also revealed something about humanity that no enemy had accounted for: our incredible resilience. When the Zhuran thought they had us cornered, we fought back. When they destroyed our cities, we rebuilt them. When they took our best, we mourned, but then we rose, stronger than ever before. It was not just the weapons that had changed the tide of war. It was the sheer will of the people. Commander Denvers had seen soldiers, civilians, engineers, scientists, and even children come together, united in a single cause. Humanity's ingenuity had always been our strength, but it was our unity in the face of annihilation that made us unstoppable. And Commander Denvers was the embodiment of that unbreakable spirit. Though the Eagle's Fury had become humanity's flagship, it wasn't just the ship that inspired people, it was the commander himself. Despite his rank and the respect he commanded, he never held himself above his crew. He fought beside them, bled with them, and led them through the most harrowing battles. The Eagle's fury had become a symbol of hope for the humans in the fleet, a constant reminder that they were not alone. Denver's voice on the intercom, calm and unshakable, kept their spirits high, even in the darkest hours. Despite the progress humanity had made in the war, it seemed as though the Zharin were always a step ahead. Every time the humans developed a new weapon, the enemy adapted. Every time humanity gained a foothold in a new sector, the Zharin pushed back. It was a battle of attrition, and many began to fear that it would drag on forever, with no decisive end in sight. But that was before the Sunfire torpedo, a weapon created with the help of the Ildari, that changed everything. The Sunfire torpedo was humanity's first true countermeasure against the Zharin's bioorganic ships. Powered by the same fusion technology that had once powered our colonies, the torpedo harnessed the power of the sun itself to deliver a devastating burst of energy. With it, humanity could break through the nearly indestructible outer layers of the Zharin ships. The first successful launch against a Zharin battleship marked the beginning of a new era in the war. But what followed next was beyond anything Commander Denvers or his crew could have imagined. In the heat of battle, as the Zharin ships began to retreat in the wake of the Sunfire torpedo's devastating power, humanity's fleet pushed deeper into enemy space. Denvers knew this was their chance, the chance to end the war, once and for all. He had watched the Zharin for too long, studied their tactics, and learned their weaknesses. It was time to act. "We push forward," Denvers had ordered, his voice unwavering, echoing through the corridors of the Eagle's fury. "We push forward until we break them. We don't stop. We don't falter. The galaxy is ours for the taking." And so the fleet surged forward. The human fleet was no longer the underdog. It was a juggernaut, unstoppable in its resolve. With the Sunfire torpedo and their relentless tactics, the humans finally gained the upper hand. For the first time in years, Denvers allowed himself a rare moment of hope. They were on the verge of victory. But even as the humans closed in on the Zharin's homeworld, the threat of complete annihilation loomed. The Zharin had been toying with their most devastating weapon, a secret hidden deep within the folds of their military might. And it was a weapon unlike any the humans had ever faced, one that could wipe out entire star systems in the blink of an eye. The Zharin, it seemed, had been preparing for a final strike, one that would burn the universe to ashes. The weapon they had developed was a planet-destroying laser, capable of drawing power from a dying star and unleashing it with devastating force. The human fleet could not afford to let the Zharin deploy this weapon. If they did, everything humanity had fought for would be lost in a single stroke. But the Zharin were not foolish. They had already launched their weapon toward Earth, knowing it would be impossible to stop. The clock was ticking. The Eagle's fury and the rest of humanity's fleet were racing against time, racing toward Earth to intercept the deadly strike before it could reach the planet. Commander Denvers had never been one to back down from a fight. But this was different. His mind raced, calculating the odds, weighing the risk. The Zharin were cunning, and their weapon had already been fired. The human fleet's chances of reaching Earth in time were slim, but Denvers could not afford to fail. His mind sharpened. There was only one thing left to do. He ordered a full-speed charge toward the Zharin flagship, a monstrous ship floating in the heart of their defensive grid. His fleet followed, with humanity's greatest hope riding on their success. And as they closed in on the Zharin's capital ship, Denvers could feel the weight of his people's hopes pressing on his shoulders. His heart pounded in his chest, but he kept his focus on the mission. This was the moment when everything would either fall apart or come together. In a final, desperate act, Denvers initiated a daring maneuver, one that would put his fleet at incredible risk, but had the potential to save Earth. The Eagle's fury would draw the Zharin flagship into a deadly collision course with the dying star. The human fleet would fire everything they had, pinning the Zharin ship in place long enough to ensure the destruction of their weapon and the end of their reign of terror. It was a gamble, one that could cost him everything. As the Eagle's fury surged forward, its weapons charging, Denver sent a message to his fleet. "We end this now." The fleet responded with a unified roar of determination, and together they charged into the heart of the Terran Empire, prepared to fight for humanity's survival, knowing that the final battle was about to begin.